the Level Up and Live podcast, where we explore inspiring stories and strategies to elevate your life. I'm your host, Sean Myers, joined by my co-host, Ewan Heinemeyer. And today, we've got an incredible guest, Anthony Trucks. From foster care to the NFL, American Ninja Warrior, and beyond, Anthony's journey is nothing short of an extraordinary. Get ready to be inspired. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode filled with insights. Your feedback fuels our passion, so share your thoughts. And if you love what we're doing, spread the word. Now, let's dive into the wisdom and experiences that will help you level up and live.
Very excited about this episode. Today we have on Anthony Trucks. If there was ever a Hollywood movie story, rags to riches, underdog story, I don't think those terms do it justice. If you know anything about Anthony and just the research I've done on him, I'm like, man, I am already drawn in and lost, captivated in the story. Ex-NFL player, American Ninja Warrior, coach, author, unbelievable success in all the ways. And we've just been talking to Anthony here. No arrogance, no pompousness. This man is humble. He's got wisdom behind his words, and I'm already, my life has already gotten better just in the little short time that we've been talking, and I'm very excited to get into this. Got a bunch of questions that I can't wait to hear the answer for, because I don't know how he's going to respond, and his answers, I've been wanting for things for a long time, and he just concisely puts them together. So without further ado, Anthony, if you'd like to give us a little bit about your background and let the audience know, it'd be great.
Yeah. Well, good morning to you guys. If you're listening to this in the afternoon or the evening, I'm sorry. This is the morning we're recording this. No, I'm a kid that grew up in foster care. I was given away at 3 years old and kind of battled the journey internally and externally of like, I'm not in a good situation in places I'm at. I'm being, tortured and starved and like kind of heinousness. And then at the same time, there's an inside part of me that doesn't feel like I'm worthy or loved or appreciated. And so a lot of the things we all battle at some point in time, I just battled earlier. And then at 14, after 11 years in the system, got adopted into a very poor, all-white family, had to navigate a sense of who am I, where do I fit in this world, tried this new thing that was intriguing to me, right? It was this, I wanted to go play football. And we oftentimes try things because we're enamored by them. And then you find out you suck at it, which is what I felt. Like, I'm bad at this. And you have a choice. You can lean in and, say, I got to get better, or make a really good excuse to evade. I unfortunately evaded it for a good season of time, and then found out like I wanted to be better than what statistics would say a foster kid could be. So I chose football as the vehicle to do that. Leaned in, got really good at the game after doing a whole bunch of what I call dark work. Emerged at that window of time to become a great athlete. Got a college football scholarship. Had my son in college at 20 years old. Progressed to play in the NFL. At my third year, I tore my shoulder. Came home. Lost a sense of identity heavily because I wasn't the football guy anymore. Had to condition myself to be somebody more. And after 3 years of craziness, I was married, had 3 kids with the same wife, and then we got divorced. After 3 years of divorce, my mom passed away, and then somehow I came to be rekindled with my ex-wife, and we're now remarried in about a 7-year remarriage. I get to travel the world and speak and talk about a lot more than what I just shared. But man, I've really thoroughly enjoyed the perspective of my life, looking back on it with a greater appreciation, and then finding ways to give those lessons to people so they can avoid the pains that I did.
Yeah, to hear you say all that and say you enjoyed, it's such a, I don't know if mature is the right word, but like that mindset of just you're accepting it, and it's like a good thing. Most people they've experienced what you've experienced, and it's broken them. And I don't want to say they are broken, but they would say maybe they're broken, or they've gone the wrong path, or the statistics that you were saying, like foster kids end up going to prison. I think it was 75%. Do you remember that moment where you were like, I don't want that, or even once you start going the right direction, you're like, oh, I'm doing it, I'm really going the right direction? Was that visual to you, or could you feel that, or was it kind of you just looked up and like, oh man, I got lucky type thing?
No, definitely was work. There are moments in time we all have, like those catalyst moments. Something happens and all of a sudden you go, oh, okay, I don't like this, or I should do more. Like there's a possibility like that, the epiphany moment. Like all of a sudden it's like, it wasn't for me an epiphany of like, I can be successful. I think it's what most people think. It's like this, oh, I got an opportunity to be successful. For me at 15, there was a moment. I was sitting in this classroom. There's these 2 girls talking to each other. They don't know I'm listening to them. And one girl says to the other girl, well, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. And for anybody listening to that hasn't been in foster care, it's like, oh, it's just some girl talking. But for me, what it was a gift that was putting out in the world for me to hear the excuse I had inside for why I was playing small. Because you are right,
Mm,
75% of inmates in any prison in America are former foster kids like me. Less than 1% of us will graduate from college. Like, there's not statistics that set me up for success in any way. And so there was this moment, and I go, it wasn't that she inspired me to be great, but I was like, ooh, I don't want to have that be the reason I'm a criminal, a bad dad, a bad husband in years. And so it was this weird moment of like this disgust internally. And that was my catalyst moment. I go, okay, well, I want to be great. And it wasn't that I wanted to be great with this reality of I could be great. It was like I wanted to. I didn't know how to, but I knew I didn't want what I had. I didn't want to go where I, and so that kind of woke me up to go, well, what do I want? Like, who do I admire? I admired football players. I go, well, what are the great ones that I admire do? And so I didn't ask myself, like, are you a great football player? Because the answer is no, and there's no drive in that. But I simply said, well, what do the great ones do? And so I looked at what they would do, and they were working out and lifting weights and doing things I'd never done. I didn't know how to do. There wasn't some, person in my life giving me guidance. So I just kind of randomly started doing things. I'm lifting weights, running routes. And the funny thing, not even, I guess it's funny to me in this hindsight, but like the reality is we don't pay attention to this. People that we admire are somebody. Nobody has amazing success, like wins a Super Bowl or the finals in the NBA and goes, I'm so surprised. I didn't know this was going to happen. Like that's never
mm,
the success isn't surprising. You earned it and you almost, you expect it. And so when I look at these people, I go, well, they have certain levels of what they are because they became the kind of person through the work they did to be there. And so after I went through this whole off season of just lifting weights and running, I was no longer doing things. I was the kind of person that does those things.
Yeah.
And with that brings more.
how did you? What changes? Like, so you had that conversation in your head. You heard those two girls talking, and you said, "I don't want that." And it seems like that kind of spurred you along. So there's you, which is going to be the minority of people who think that, because the majority don't obviously think that. Like, how would you? How would you get that into someone's hands or into their head that they might have gone the other direction, like the most people do? How do you get them to have that conversation you had?
Well, you know what it was is I didn't have like I was 15 years old, so it wasn't like this full in depth
Yeah.
it was a year old conversation. But here's what it was: it wasn't this thing of if you do this, you're going to be like them. It wasn't that. It was one of two options. And option one is you do nothing, and it guarantees you don't have that, or you do something, and there's a little bit more of a chance you get that. That was the logic. So for a lot of people that are complaining and they don't have anything, it's like, all right, one of two choices. You can do absolutely nothing because it might not work, but that absolutely nothing guarantees no success. It's just a pure guarantee of a lack in that area. Or you could try something and it increases your odds. I'd rather take an increased odds in a positive. I don't know if this is going to pan out, but doing nothing isn't going to pan out. So I did things and they were hard and they were uncomfortable. But here's what also happens is most people are waiting for the end destination to get the arrival of a joy or positivity. I started falling in love with the day, man. Because there's always a destination, but if you only love the destination, you'll never make it because you'll miss out on the days. But I would love to get up in the morning. I'd love to go out and do my stuff by myself. Headphones in, if I could get we had little Walkmans back then. Throw some headphones in if I could.
Mm.
It's hard to do sprints with a CD player though, because that thing it would skip. Eventually, it's you, and then like catching the football, running the routes. Like you get these little moments, like, oh, I caught that ball. Like, oh, great! I was this a little bit faster. I could lift more weights. It's the little things that I started loving, and I lost sight of tracking the end destination. And so because I lost sight of it, I just worked. And sure enough, I arrived at it one day like, oh crap, I'm faster. I'm stronger. I'm more skilled. I'm also meaner. There's a statement I say that when you're in the process of creating like the physical body, you're not just creating the physical body, it's creating a different internal human. So what you create creates you in a sense of when you've gone to the hard bottoms of your workouts, you guys have done this, like you don't want to move. You can't breathe. Your heart rate's max and you got another set. And it's like, all right, 5, 4. And that when you get to that one and you go at full tilt, you have reached a point that people psychologically sometimes never will because they'll hear 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1, and then and then they
Mm.
know better. But when you go and you give it and you finish that and you're gassed, you can't move. There's a different monster in you. And really, here's the thing that I tell people: when I got to my sophomore year of football in high school, After all these 7 months of getting made fun of by teammates, doing things that were hard, all these moments of dying, with leading into it, there was this mentality which was, I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. It was a guttural ownership, and that I promise you is the reason I do what I do now. Without those moments, it doesn't. I think it daisy chains to now, 100%. But I
Yeah.
I earned that back then, and that created this little tick of like, I'm not the foster kid like everybody else. I'm better, and it gave me a whole direction for life.
Anthony, you've
Power.
done all this work behind the scenes, man, and I resonate so much with it because that's where it really starts, right? Is taking a look at ourselves in the mirror and doing the work behind the scenes and spending the time, energy, and effort, right? And
Mhm.
what's allows us to move the needle and show up in our life. One of the things I haven't heard you mention was like a role model, a mentor,
Mm.
a coach. Man, I know firsthand doing things alone, right? We can YouTube as much as we
Hard.
can, Google as much as we can. And not a lot of people listening to this are entrepreneurs, business owners, and entrepreneurs. And so a lot of times with, our technology and our resources, we try to do things on alone. But I'm curious with you, did you have a coach or a mentor along the way and a role model? And if so, how did
Yeah.
that help you show up
I had a
in
lot
your
of
work?
people along the way. It's interesting though. I didn't trust a lot of adults. I didn't have, like, because I grew up in a sense where they were all just kind of really just bad people, and from like my experience with them. And then even on top of that, the people that were around me, they weren't trying to do like I was doing or hadn't accomplished what I had. And so like it was weird. Like my mom and my dad, love them to death. We were really poor. Like we didn't have much, and they weren't the hardest workers. It was kind of not like this shining example of success. But I did have coaches that were able to like see in me something I didn't see in me. In fact, there was a moment in time where I remember there was this guy named Tim Manley. He was a yard duty guy. He just rode around in his, golf cart, making sure campus was safe. And there was some conversation where like I had gone through this window of time. I got a little bit better. I was kind of doing my thing. But I'm still a young kid running around like this little, little town. I'm just a little sophomore. And I remember there was one point in time he pulls me aside and he sees me doing a bunch of dumb stuff and messing around and being joking and hanging out, hears about the parties because everybody talks to him. And there was some conversation he had with the principal about whether or not Anthony Trucks could be successful and go beyond, because I was doing pretty well all of a sudden. And he takes me, and I remember where we were sitting in front of the school campus on his cart, and he goes, I want to let you know that even the principal doesn't think you're going to be successful. He says, but I can see you playing in the NFL. And it was
Wow.
the first man ever in my life to like put that on me, because
Mm.
kind of this thing of like, yeah, you're just gonna go to school and like you're gonna be normal, no big deal. But like he put this staple on a possibility for my life it was in a different universe. I mean, I look at TV and see NFL players, and they're alien to me. I don't know what this looks like. And back then, it wasn't social media to see their life. It was like that's TV. I'm this foster kid, man. We're poor. That's not a possibility. And he broke it down. He's like, the only thing they did was they just worked. If you can get accustomed to working at things, that's a possibility for your life. First person to ever tell me that. And so like him, and then I had a couple good coaches, Chris Matthews, George Flores, like some good guys that were there when I needed them to be there. Even, our coach Ferris Anthony, we had some good guys, Jim Baccio. These are all football coaches. And it's like, you only had them for a season, right? But in that season, you spend so much time, you're around your teammates, there's so much time, that because even the off season for football, you're preparing for football, you're still in that same pocket. But these were guys that not only did they give me a little bit of a push, but it was a container to not get in trouble, a place to give energy, to give effort.
Yeah.
And so the mentors. And then you get to college, I had a good coach, phenomenal coach, Don Pelham, who was my assistant, or the assistant coach was a linebacker coach. I hated him. I'm not going to lie. I hated his guts. And here's why. I hated him because he was forcing me to do things I didn't want to do that would 1000% make me better. And in hindsight, I am incredibly thankful at the energy. I'm a father now. I know how hard it is to hold a line, man. It's emotionally draining. It's mentally draining. For him to do what he did for us back then, it's a tear, man. And so I look at it and I go, that was like a deep sense of love that he gave to us. Because even my father loved my dad, but he was not like always present. He was working real hard. My mom was sick. My family was focused on my mom being sick, and so we were just running amok. Man, I was all over the place. I almost like barely saw him throughout like my high school years. And realistically, like I love him, but he didn't put me into the same vice that this coach did to force me to be a better man. And without that, like I'm probably still like a punk kid, man, just running around with the football guy. I got a kid. It's interesting because I've always had a good heart, but I haven't always had the same work ethic. Like I had to develop that. I worked at it at high school, but then you have every level you climb to, it tests the work ethic. Because if you have high school work ethic, that's not going to carry you through college. College work ethic won't carry you through the NFL. And
That's
so you have
huge.
to elevate the levels. And so he was good at driving my intensity and work ethic up to the level it needed to be successful to kickstart for the rest of my life.
How would you respond differently to him today? Because you know now that you said you hated him because he made you do things you didn't want to do, but there was things that was going to elevate you. What would you say to someone today, or even yourself, or even me?
Yeah.
How do you twist that mind to where like you could just not hate them now? Now you see it, love it, embrace it. Can it be done? I don't know.
No, man, it's hard. My son right now, me and him have a really tension-filled relationship. I love him, but I am forcing him to have to, he's 14 going on 15 this year, but he wants to be 9. And I explained to him, you got 9 and you got 10 and you got 11 and you got 12. We're now in the ages of you're about to be a young man. You are a young man. And he's I don't know how to explain it. He is kind of like quietly rebelling in a sense. Not that he doesn't like, he's trying, but what happens is there's not this embracing of like the responsibility and the weight and like the really the depth of what it means to be a man, a young man, right? And so it's not this embracing going, okay, I got it. It's this, like it's this avoidance and you can see it in his face. And I go, son, it's all going to keep coming at you. It is not going to slow down.
Yep.
And if you keep trying to avoid, it's going to pile up. It's going to crush you. And the idea is to stand up, take a breath, and embrace all this. Now, I say that based on your question to go, I don't know 100% how you get someone to do that, because when he's making us do hard things, there's a different sense of logic in a mind that can lean into it. I didn't like
Mm.
it, but I did it because the fear of me going home was great. I had nothing at home. So
The
I had nowhere else.
consequences.
This was my place. I didn't have a nice home. Like he could kind of avoid it because his mom and me have a home to go to, right? When I left
Mm.
college, I had no room. I've never been home since high school. Like there was no place to go. My oldest son can come here anytime. You got a whole room. It's a different experience of life. And so I don't 100% know how to force someone to get it, but I will say this, if anybody can grab anything, at any point in time when I was around a person who made me better, like in hindsight, I hated them in the real moments because they made me have to experience emotion and a pain I did not like. And no one likes pain, right? No one's that masochistic. So to have to experience, even my wife, we got divorced. I hated her guts, right? Because the idea was like she was trying to force me to be a better husband. The thing she'd make me have to
Mm.
do, and she do this, and I don't do that. But it was forcing me in this place of discomfort. And it wasn't until like my early 30s I go, oh, these things that are uncomfortable, the pains, they are literally why I'm successful. And if I would have just embraced them, I could have been even more successful in the moments and maybe even better now. So I'm not going to let that happen again. And so now as an adult, a grown man, when I'm faced with situations that are super uncomfortable, I lean into them and embrace them.
With these
Love
individuals
that.
that have shown up for in your life, a lot of these leaders and role models and coaches, two-part question here. So the first question is, have you what allowed you to keep showing up? So they were hard on you, they were tough on you, right? Because they believed in your potential, they believed in what you could do, right? And so, but you kept showing up. I'm curious on why. And then the two-part question is, have you went back and thanked them, right?
Mhm.
For showing up like they did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've thanked all of them. In fact, DP, who's the guy I'm talking to, he's in one of so I coach speakers in a separate program we provide. And he's actually one of the people in the program. He's awesome, man. It's a blast. I tell him all the time. And I've
Cool.
interacted with him over the years a
That's
lot of
awesome.
times and told him how incredibly important and pivotal that time was.
That's great.
So
I
he
love
he
that.
gets it. And I think that you need to do those kind of things. The other part of it
Yes.
is, whoa, your first question, I'm sorry, I just missed it. I had it in my head, but
Why
you
you
took it.
kept why you kept showing up, why you
Oh,
kept leaning in. They were hard on you. They were
yeah,
role models on you.
yeah. Well, I think there's two reasons. One was I didn't have an exit plan. Like they say, you burn a bridge. I burned a bridge, man. Like when I'm up there, I'm now up there. There's nowhere to go. I there's no thought of I could go home. Like there wasn't a home to go to. Like I could go, and my mom, dad had the house, but I'm not even joking. I shared a room with like all of us. There was 6 of us as kids, 8 in the family in a 4-bedroom house. So when I left, I had no room. Like there literally was somebody else there. Then my mom and dad moved to a new house. When they moved to the new house, there quite literally was no space. It was 3 bedrooms. And so I couldn't go home. So I had to be here. And then the other part of it was I enjoyed, once I settled into environments, I enjoy the environment, and the fear of leaving it scares me. Like I as a foster kid, the biggest fear for us was coming home and seeing a garbage bag, which is your clothes, and a car out front and you going somewhere new. And so having to leave places, it's not a thing I thoroughly enjoy. It in fact was an underlying like pain point for the NFL because you could be somewhere today and quite literally they can go, you're going somewhere else or you're no longer here. And it felt very similar to like being kicked out in foster care. And so for me, when I was there, it's like, okay, this is my home. And it was more of like, I want to protect my normalcy. So when he was pushing us to do stuff and fighting, there wasn't the option of quitting. And it wasn't like I thought of it. It just didn't exist as a possibility because so much would be lost if I wasn't here. And so I leaned into it. It was, I didn't enjoy it. It sucked a lot of the time, but he was just sometimes harder. Even if you were good, he wouldn't give you the praise. That's one thing I'm trying to get my son to get. We had this football game we played against Cal Berkeley. I'm in Oregon. I played football in Oregon. And I'd been killing it my senior year. I was leading the Pac 10 at the time in sacks. I was like ranked in the country in sacks. I was leading the pack in tackles for loss, forced fumbles recovered. I was killing it. And in one of the meetings, he's letting me know, like, you're doing well, Chuck says, but you have these plays and you could do more. I go, what are you talking about? I'm sacking these guys. He goes, yeah, well, you ain't doing anything until you go in there, get a sack, force a fumble, recover the fumble, pick it up and score a touchdown. I
Let's
go,
go.
damn, that's a high order, right? The very next game, right, Cal High, or not Cal High, but University of California. And I come off the right side edge. The running back comes to block me. I give him a little do-si-do. He goes flying by. I dive over, hit the quarterback. So I sack him. As I'm hitting him, fumble the ball. Ball comes out. I grab the fumble with my left arm, but I'm on the ground. So I get tagged, whatever you want to call him, down. So it's sack, force fumble, recover. I go to the sideline. I'm hyped. I go to DP, my coach, and I look at him and he goes, but you didn't score a touchdown.
Oh
And it
man, always
was one of those
pushing.
always, and it was the middle of the game doing that, but I got it. It was like it was more of the thing of it's okay to celebrate, right? But you can't just go to like meet the limit. You can't go like I've hit the pinnacle because then what are you working for? And so for him, it wasn't like this. He wasn't trying. In hindsight, I know he wasn't trying to make me feel small, diminish me, but trying to have me raise my standards as a man and as a person who performs in certain aspects. So you kind of had to like learn to dance, but that's what it is. It's in the world of us as men, we do a lot of things. We get a lot of accomplishments and we do get praise for it. But it's kind of this thing where like you have to be okay with the fact that it's not the pinnacle every time. It's a very good success. Celebrate that thing. There's more and there's better and enjoy the process to it all. Because for me, like I didn't have, but I could still have fun playing the game. And when I get to that point, then I'm not living and dying off somebody's words.
And you said that at the start of the podcast, you said something, you said, enjoy the day. You're enjoying the day. And I thought, man, that's so powerful because it's so easy to go to mountaintop to mountaintop. And once you get, because you think, well, oh, I've achieved this. Now what? Well, there's another thing up there. And now you
Oh,
get up there and you end up there and it's now what? So you're never satisfied because you're always looking for that thing. But when you enjoy the day, you're
it's always
always in
there.
a good place. You're in a good shape, and so you can enjoy each play. You can enjoy the tackle, the fumble, the recovery, and you enjoy it all. And so you're
Oh,
never arriving to this place that doesn't exist. And I think that's why so many people they make it to the top and they're miserable because they never learn to enjoy those things
no.
day to day. Like I say, Anthony, on you're coaching and people coming to you now, what's kind of the number one thing that they say, or maybe a top couple of things that you see? They don't see it, but just in general, the majority of people are saying bang, because you talk a lot about identity. Is it
Yeah.
something along those lines, or what do you see?
Well, the thing is, we all want to, like you just talked, you want to be able to get up and enjoy the day and, and have it be fun. I think there's this thought that the destination is the journey. We are always in
Mm,
the now, right? We're in the journey. So the destination is to be in
mm,
a now that you thoroughly enjoy. That's
Yeah.
it. Like, can I be in a moment now because I've worked to like love this? Like my kids are getting up for
yeah.
school. I can kind of hear them. My wife's floating around. I just woke up this morning. She's like, I love you, like a lot. And I go, I love you too, a lot. It's just while she's half asleep, but like my journey, the daily thing I love, but I earned this. And so the idea is, can you lean into the things and appreciate them? And then, like you mentioned, is like you fall in love with the process. And if you do that, then you're not going to be floating around every day hoping for the next thing to make you happy. There's a
Yes.
space of gratitude. That's a big piece, appreciating where you're not, which is a big kind of segment to it. But I think for a lot of folks when they come to me, the biggest thing that I show up is I have a sense. It literally is what I call it. I have an internal sense of limitless, ridiculous power. Just bear with me when I explain
I
what
love
this
that.
is.
Yeah.
It's a sense of I am in a control. I have power, and I'm not saying to take over someone's house or world. That's not what I'm saying. But I got this control and sense of me that I can show up anywhere and kill it, and it is tied to identity. I believe your identity is who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. It's how you flow. How you flow is the actions you have. The actions create your life. If you lack a sense of power, you show up and you're a leaf in the wind. The world's against you. It's all sucky. You don't enjoy it. You're waiting for this moment to happen because when this happens, it'll be right. And you never show up with power. And the reality is these all these little feelings we have, they're all tied to actions we've taken. And most of them, they weren't done intentionally. So I'm gonna go back and make sure this is
Mm.
clear. My goal for people is to have them wake up one day and have that power. I call it a dominator's identity, to govern and control. I want you to have that at the end of our work together. But I realize that you don't have that now. People go, well, how do I get that? How do I love the day, right? Well, the idea is when you look at how you got there, we all got to the place we are now by a set of experiences. It's not things I wished for or hoped for. It's genuine experience, right? It's what wires us neurologically based on what we've seen to like this, love this, be fearful of this, or psychologically what we've seen, right? But those wirings happen from experience that led us to where we are now. So I go, well, if we want to go somewhere later, right, a higher place, we could have a different identity, is what I call it, dominator's identity. What do? We just subject ourselves to new experiences. The problem is we did them haphazardly because I'd say it happens either on demand or when crap hits the fan. For most of us, when crap hits the fan, something goes wrong. I'm forced to do these new actions. It redefines my identity, and I go, I can do this. Holy crap, right? What were you doing the last 5 years? Why didn't you do it then? Why did
Yes.
this have to happen to make you do that? And so when I get with people, they don't have a sense of power. There's no sense of identity in this direction. They don't have what they want most. Their identity is kind of just haphazardly built through different experiences. I go, well, what do you want? And I think about this in a different way because I don't believe you can attain or sustain anything you want above a current identity. Like you guys have a competition coming up. If you don't identify as a person who prepares and trains for that, you will not have the outcome, right? You will not attain it.
Yeah.
But if you identify as that person, lo and behold, right, it happens. Not an accident. So I go, if you want that, let's trickle it back. Who do you want to become that has what you want? What does this person do? Let's take it all the way back to what do they do? We find out the things that they do. And it's not fun stuff. And it's every day. And it's in the dark. It's not celebrated. It's not sexy. It's this ugly, gritty, sweaty, snotty, I'm tired, my back hurts stuff, right? That's what it is. But you do it day one and it sucks. You do it day two and it sucks. You do it week two and it sucks. But month two, month three, it was hard to do. Now it's hard not to do. I've put myself through
Mm.
that not only has developed my body and my skill set, it's developed my sense of identity. I've done this for 3 months. I'm the person who does this, right? Then when you get out there and it's going to be a moment in time of you can't breathe, that clock is ticking, you're trying to meet a number, part of you can go one of two ways. If you did enough hard, dark work, in that moment, you'll go, I've done too much work in the dark to not kill this. And you will push past what feels logical. Like you're just doing, you go to a different place completely, right? But if you didn't do that
Speaking my
stuff,
language.
if you
Yes.
yell, if you didn't do that, if you know that 3 weeks ago you cut a rep or you didn't push hard on that last stretch or you cut the weights, like if you didn't do it in that moment, you'll pull back just a millimeter. But that millimeter lets
Yes.
somebody fly by you. It's just that little millimeter because you're not fighting for something because you didn't invest in it at a certain level. So for me, when I work with people, that's what I'm talking about. That limitless, ridiculous power in a defining moment. It's not that every day, it's like when I need it, do I have it? And when people have that, they give it and they get the outcome, they have the result, and now they identify more as that, and you'll protect what you've created. I love that statement of people protect what they create. The addition is people protect who they've created as well. Well,
Anthony,
Good or bad, right?
you,
Because people will
bad,
you
defend that position so that they don't have to get uncomfortable and that back hurt and sweaty. So they'll defend it with excuses because that's their identity. And to attack it and to tell them, hey, it is achievable and doable, they will fight ferociously on why they can't, because that's
they
the
will.
identity they've created. And it's like subconscious. They don't even know what they're doing to themselves because I think I've done it. I mean, I'll say this, what you just described what you described to me there was mile 24 of the marathon. And there was 2 miles left to go. And I was trying to go sub 4 hours. And I had nothing left. My body was completely shut down, broken. and yet my legs just kept going. My brain was like, do not stop. Right.
Yeah.
And just kept going. And I made it sub 4 by 20 something seconds. And that was
Well,
my goal.
that's
I
how
trained for it. My identity was, I can do this. And it happened. And so, man, when you're saying that, I feel like that's the truth, you know?
big piece of it, man.
Anthony, what type of
Sure is.
individuals do you really like working with? So are these just like, I mean, anybody, or what type of
Yeah.
individuals have really leaned into what you're saying at Dark
You know,
Work?
so the I found that I'm not good at getting you off the couch. If I got to get you off the couch and
Yeah.
convince you to go and chase a life, I'm
Yeah.
not your
Amen.
guy.
Yeah.
But I'm good at the person who's standing there going, I want to run.
Yeah.
And I found those people are usually executives, entrepreneurs, and athletes. There's just a different sense of drive to them because they realize that there's not just a level of a goal that's going to be hard to attain, but they're okay with competition. They're okay with competing against
Yes.
others and themselves because there are a lot of people who aren't used like that. We have this world full of introverts now, and this is just my random perspective of it. I don't know if everybody's introverted. I think they just are confrontation avoidant. Like they don't like to
Mm,
have to you or interact with you. That so the fear of competition, it buckles them. For me, like even
mm,
watching my son, he's not yet capable of getting to the point of pure intense competition that's not a physical fight. Like he plays football, and I try to explain to him, son, you're going against guys that are going at that 99th percentile. They're not at 100% where they're throwing fists, right? They're the 99th percentile. I say, but you keep cutting out at 75% because it gets too intense or it's too difficult, and you don't know if it's right. So these people that are avoiding me, like the people I work with, are the ones that are okay going in, like it's going to be me versus my competition in business. It's going to be me
yeah.
versus my, this whatever opposition of getting this done for my promotion. It's going to be me versus genuine competition playing a sport. And when you can understand the beauty of that moment, it's not it's people fear it because of the emotional expression necessary to rise, right? Because when you guys are competing, there's so much going. It's not just physical, man. It's an emotional thing. It's me versus you, and it's this battle, and you got to get to the grittiest, most animalistic, like guttural parts of you. But if you have no relationship with that, it's hard to get you to move when you need to. So the
So
people I
Yeah.
work best with ones that can touch that.
I resonate with everything that you're saying, and I've had that. It's almost like a switch, right? I went
Yeah,
into
man.
like a dark work. Like so, when I hear
Yeah,
dark work, and the more that
yeah.
you've shared the context, man, I get it. And
Hmm.
there was everything's zoned out. Me and Ewan have competed. We've played racquetball, we've done all these different things, and it's just we've leveled each other up, right? And so we go to these
Hmm.
dark, like I go to these dark places. I'm like, I don't care if you're my
You
best
have to,
friend. Don't I'm gonna
dude.
win,
You have to.
right?
Love it.
But then here recently at 37, I've learned I'm like, dude, I'm really not burning bridges, but man, the people around me, like I'm destroying, I'm dominating, right? And so, and then I've followed role models. I don't know, individuals like Nick Bear. Nick Bear doesn't talk anything about. He's a marathon runner, and just the guy we follow, American entrepreneur.
Hmm.
Just one of those role models. And he never talks about competing, dominating, going in there, and facing the other individual. You know what he talks about? Showing up the best version of himself, and he talks about PRing personal records for himself. He's not focused
Yeah.
on the outcome. He's just
Him.
focused on going and giving it his all, right? Every single day or every single competition that he gets into. And I find it insightful when it comes to competitions because I played baseball in college and we were there to dominate. We were there to crush the
To beat
competition,
him.
right? Whether it was a pitcher, whether it was an outfielder. And so it's been an interesting shift
It's a
almost. I don't
progression.
I'm curious on your thoughts on that. Like, because I
Yeah.
understand what you're saying is like, hey, if I'm competing against my best friend or another person over here, like I'm doing dark
You got to
work
go
right
in.
now.
You got to
I'm
go
going
in.
deep.
Yeah. Yeah, I call it DOYD, draw on your darkness. It's why you watch some of the best athletes in the pivotal moments, the fourth quarter, whatever it is. They're not in like this, hey guys, we can do it, joyful place. It's it's in the eyes. It's hunkered down.
Yes.
Like they're in a depth. There's a depth to them. They're in a battle, right? There is a difference when you're playing a sport and I am going against an opposition trying to sack me as Tom Brady or trying to block me as Michael
Yes.
Jordan or hit a tennis ball towards me like Serena Williams, right? There's a difference there. But here's what I hear this, and I love the perspective you're talking to. In what you guys do to compete, unless you can trip people, it's not the same thing, right? Which you can't go elbow people and trip them. So at a certain point, it is about this person. But once you know you can beat them, if beating them becomes your limit, you'll never reach your max.
Mm,
So
Mm,
if I
love
get to
that.
a point where I know I can beat these people when I give my all, I am now my competition. And to be honest, that's a harder one. That's a more difficult monster because nobody
Yes.
knows if I got a rep but me. Nobody knows if I didn't push but me. And so you're battling this invisible thing and you are literally by yourself. That's why I say it's lonely at the top. So this individual,
Yes.
he has realized, and you probably at the same place, like you aren't my competition anymore. Not in a detrimental, like or, you're not a good person, but you haven't done what I've done. If I keep my max to beating you, I am limiting myself. So now that I know that I got this, like he said, I have to PR. If I do a PR, you can't touch me. So I got to beat
Yes.
me. And so it's kind of this thing where
Oh, that's
I'm,
good.
how do I explain it? Sometimes they say the best revenge is success. So if me and someone are having an
Mm.
altercation, talking crap about me, if I focus on them, it's revenge. I'm trying to, I want to make them look bad, right? I'm not focused on my success. But if I succeed, it takes care of itself. That is the revenge. But you
Yes.
can't do both at the same time. I can't focus on revenge and focus on my success because I'm focused on you or I'm focused on me. And so when you focus on just doing you, you win. Then you pop your head up and go, "Oh yeah, it also took care of that." And so the
Yeah.
idea of to get a PR is doing his thing, and then he goes, "Oh yeah, also I beat everybody else around me."
Mm,
Yeah.
man.
Man, I love that, man. It's like when you it's in an elevated state when you're doing it with you, for you, that's in the light. And you're talking about doing that dark work. Like if you don't come out of the dark, you stay in the dark, and chasing somebody else just doesn't, it won't fulfill you in the end because it's not a place of positivity, because revenge is never good. It's curious because I've been really interested, and this kind of all ties in. So you, in the NFL, you were injured, is what took you out, right? It was an injury?
That was what it
I'm
was,
very
man.
curious on how you mentally recovered from that, because that was your identity, right? And that's such a huge thing. You spent your life getting there, and then you must have done some, well, dark work, man, to really come out of that. And that I think could be super valuable for the listeners to hear how you did that, because I'm fascinated to know. Because I got
Mm,
sick going into this High Rocks. I'm like, it's devastating, man. I'm sick and I can't do what I want to do, and it's changed my identity just within a couple of days. And our friend right
right.
now, he's going to do a triathlon. His foot's hurt, so he can't run, and I could see his whole demeanor, his body's down, his mentality's down. He's found a way to get himself back up there. But I'm really curious, man, you're talking about your career, your livelihood was on the line, and your whole identity. How'd you do that?
Good
Man,
question.
well, the wrong way. I did it the wrong way, to be honest. It wasn't,
Most people do.
because whenever you wake up one day and you can't do what you want to do or what you've been doing for a long period of time, you question your not just your ability, but your actual value to the world. We are what we do. It's even though logically there should be a separation, you don't do it all the time. I was a football player. When that's gone, God, who am I? What value do I hold? I'm not on TV anymore. No one's in a high five. How's it going, Anthony? Non-football player. Like, what do I do now? Right.
Mm,
And the reality, I had to go through this journey of like understanding. I had to break my life to fix it. And as much as I don't like that it happened, I appreciate it because it gives me way more depth as a human to do what I do. If I hadn't gone through the craziness of my life, I am not suited to actually talk about things. Just a guy who's, just running through life. But I've went
right.
through it, I've navigated, I've got to a successful place so I can go, here's how I got here. But here's what I do realize. In the midst of these moments and crazy things going on, like I don't know if I had like a clear path or a clear idea of what I was supposed to be doing. It was just kind of like me winging it, hoping things pan out. But when I got to this point of my life falling apart, I looked in the mirror and it took 3 years of me just navigating crazy because I'd focused on football as the thing that made me me. And it was like a fruit off a tree. But a fruit, like a real fruit, can fall on the ground, it can hang for a while, but eventually gets rotten. And then it goes, rotten apple. That's
Mm,
how I felt. I sucked. I was nobody. And for years, this went on until through reading and research and just taking books in, like I got a lot behind me. I read. I started like reframing and understanding that I've never been the fruit. I've always been the tree. All of us. The tree created the fruit. So if I take care of the tree again, it'll take care of the fruit. But if I only focus on a piece of fruit, not only does the tree die, all the other fruit dies. My marriage fell apart, my health fell apart, business wasn't going well because I wasn't the
wow.
football. So that was the first part of it, right? I had to navigate how to build out of that. But then you have moments like you're talking to where you're sick or you're hurt. And as much as we go like, I'm not myself, it actually is an opportunity to see who you are more than anything. Because I remember like playing football. I never played it full, man. After the first game, you're at 90% at max. It's a good day if you're at 90%, meaning something isn't aching, a finger's not borderline broken, wrists aren't messed up, right? My wife runs track. If she doesn't feel perfect, she in her head can't compete the same way. I'm talking
Wow.
perfect.
Yeah.
So the difference in this is some people, and I'm not knocking my wife. She's amazing. She's about to set some national, if not world records pretty soon. She's a beast. But the truth is, I don't understand how she talks to things sometimes because I go, so your foot's a little bit sore. And like in my head, it doesn't compute the same way. Because for us, when I was hurt, now my coach said, we're going to see who you are now. Because you can't go out there and use that as an excuse to do bad. That is just happening. You'd still better compete and perform at the level max. Because to be
Yeah.
honest, all of us have more in us than we think we have in us. This is just a way for us to see who you are. And I've always been the guy that, like, even if it's just for me, I want to go into something with the chips against me and I want to dominate it. So when I get done, I go, hell yeah. Even with that, I killed. So
Yes.
with you being a little bit sick or your buddy with the foot, hoping it's okay, I think to like the Goggins mentality of like running for miles on a broken foot, you know, like it's not saying to do that. That's not the healthiest thing to do, but damn it can be done, you know? And
Yes.
that's how people become these dominant characters. Because think about this. You can go in and have one of two things happen come Monday, come Sunday morning, depending on what the race is, right? You can go
Yep.
in and go, did my race, and I was sick and I was tired, and you know, it's okay. We didn't have the best time because I was sick. And you got to convince yourself of that. Or you go in there and go, even with that, damn it, we got this done. Like there's a right.
That's how I'm feeling, man. I'm feeling like, honestly, I was like, I was nervous and excited to go into this High Rocks competition up until I got sick. Now it's Tuesday. I'm just kind of over it. I'm still feeling it for sure. Tomorrow I'm gonna be in the gym. But honestly, I am more excited now than I was before. I don't know why. I'm not sure. I'm just like, I feel like, give it to me. Like I'm ready, like to
It's a
go all
crucible.
out.
If you think about all the people back in the day that wanted to go on quests and a crucible, and I got to go to this thing, we don't have modern day crucibles. These are them, right?
Yes.
Crucible is purely an opportunity to have a chance to have this thing you can think to, not just for Sunday, but 70 Sundays from now, dude. Like when
Yes.
you look at the next race and the next race, you will think back to the race, even if it's just emotionally for a moment. Hey, I went that one race. I was sick, had a sinus infection, hocking up loogies, and I still got it done. There ain't no way I'm missing out this. And you push at the next tick.
Yes.
So it becomes part of your identity. You draw on that darkness, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing people miss out on is yes, everything's aligned and perfect, but do we want it to be? Because if it isn't, I don't get the opportunity to be a dog right now and have
Yeah.
this be part of me for the next years of my life.
Because
Anthony,
life
I'm
is never going to be lined up just
curious.
right. It's never going to be your
Yeah.
friend. It's always going to be hard, or at least expect it to be.
Why do you
Always.
find it that these individuals that you work with a lot of times? Because people in my life that I've met over the years, they try to justify right why they can't show up or why they can't do something or whatever in any area of life, right? A budget,
Mhm.
finances, business, start one.
Yeah.
They justify in their mind. I'm curious
There's
with
a couple
you and
reasons.
your experience at Dark Work
Yeah.
in the people that you work with, because everything that you're saying, like the David Goggins effect, I've read his books and stuff
Mhm.
I'm that guy. Like if something, I told you before the podcast today, like we talked about showing up, right? And I'm showing up. No, and he asked me all the time. He's like, dude, you got the flu, you're dying. Like, you gonna show up? And I'm like, yeah, 9 times out of 10, I am, right?
You are,
But
yeah.
9 times out of 10, other people they justify. And from your
They do.
experience, why do you think they do that?
There's two sides of the coin here. And I'm going to go with the first side that's not the fun side. The first side is those who've had success, they do not have a good relationship with failure. They have experienced failure, but they don't have a good relationship with it. Meaning, I call them defenders. People have had great success. Some of their biggest fears is taking on a new opportunity that may make them feel less than. So they will
Good point.
they'll protect what they have. They'll battle to keep this stature, right? But this new thing, I don't want to do that because what if I go in there and it doesn't go as good and it takes away from my already built success? That's one reason why people don't lean in because it's an opportunity to pull away. That's why undefeated boxers won't take big matches sometimes because I'm undefeated. I stand to lose that undefeated mark, right? Oh, do I want to take this? So they won't take the big one. The other side of the coin is when I go into these situations that challenge me and pressure me, like so it's like one thing is I don't want to lose this, right? But then I have all these things that are good reasons and excuses to go small. I was just telling my son this quite literally yesterday. it's the age old thing of, the two wolves inside and they're battling each other. And I didn't create this. This is just some concept that I think is a good concept. And I just yesterday was talking to him about this because he wants to be great, he says. But I go, but you have these two wolves. He'd never heard of it till yesterday. And I go, well, there's one wolf inside that wants to win, dominant, and one wolf inside that's okay with accepting an excuse that you don't have to go forward, to convince yourself to sleep well at night and not toss and turn. I said, you know which one wins? And he goes, I don't know. I said, the one you feed. Now, he didn't get it at first, and I go, well, think about it this way. There's moments in time when like you don't want to get up because it's too early, right? But you're going to get a workout, you keep telling yourself. Or when you're in the middle of a rep and you're supposed to go hard, right? And the weak wolf will go, it's okay. You're a little bit tired. It's okay. Just take it easy. You'll survive. It's okay. When you feed that wolf with your energy going, you're right. Hey guys, I got to take a break, right? When you feed that wolf, you get what that wolf has, which is weakness. When you feed the other wolf, which is, I don't care, I'm still going. It's hard, it's difficult, and you lean in, that wolf lives. But I'm gonna tell you the truth. That wolf's hungrier than the other one. That one takes more energy. It takes more effort. It takes more willpower. It's a bigger, more hungry wolf. And the truth is one doesn't die. They're always there. But one gets to a point where it's so consistent, it starves the other one to a point of like oblivion, to where it exists, but you don't feed it still. But you just wonder, why does it keep hanging out, that weak wolf? But the strong wolf gets strong enough to where it's now who you are. You don't question which one you feed. You just feed that one. And so some people are still feeding the weak wolf. They still show up, and that one shows up and they go, let me give you a little bit of scrap of food real quick. And that wolf stays around, right?
Yep.
The idea is eventually you can just keep that one so far in the back and starve that you never even notice it's there anymore. So you ask, how do I people or talk to these people? It's because a lot of them show up and they're already doing it well in life. They've got to a certain point of doing successful things. They got this dominator sense to them, but they don't take the next thing on. And when faced with something, they feed the weak wolf because it's too much willpower, because we have already so much that I got a nice house. I got a nice car. What's it gonna do? It's not a matter of what it does. It's a matter of it's who you are. And if it's who you are, you stay in line with that human.
Love that.
So which I'm curious on, and I know we're kind of pressed for time, so we'll wrap this thing up. But which wolf do you feed?
Man, I feed them both.
We
I'm not
already
gonna
know.
lie. Here's the thing. And it's a hard one, because it's not that I feed the wolf because I like want to lean into ease, but it's difficult in a space where I'm a guy that has like this, that you understand my heart. It's built in a certain way. I can't change that, but it's not conducive to being a present father and a husband. Very present. Because I have to succeed in a marriage to certain things that I want to do, but I know my wife needs me to do, or my kids need me to be.
Yeah.
And so in my head with my son, he doesn't have this mentality yet. So when he's feeding that wolf, I don't get it. But then I have to sometimes pull back a little bit, and I got to ease and go, okay, Dad, go a little bit slower, right? My wolf wants to go hard, but the wolf inside goes, hey, ease up a little bit. I got to listen to him, because that guy can train my son. He can get him to
Yes.
understand. Or if it's like, hey, time spent with my wife, part of me goes, I got to work on this. I got to get this done, right? Because the business, like a business side of it. There's a business wolf and, two wolves. There's a professional two wolves. There's going to be a fitness two wolves, right? And if I'm always feeding that wolf, I'm going to starve other parts of my life.
That's
So it's
good.
not that I lean to weakness by any means, but I have to realize that if I want to have a marriage and happy and a collective peace, sometimes I might have to diminish, some of the energy and tension about how I'm pushing my son, or I might have to ease up and not do this work so I can watch a movie with my wife. So it's a delicate balance. But I will
Which
say
means
this.
it means that you are feeding the hard wolf by doing that, because it's not easy for you to do that. So you look
Yeah.
how big you're having to be to look like it's weakness. It's strength, man, for you to be able to. Man, it's huge. Men have a very, very hard time doing what you just said, which is
Yeah.
not being tough. Seeing your son struggling, you're like, well, man up, dude. That might not be who he needs. That's who men, they want their son to be tough. So that's over there with their agenda. You be tough. And the kids left there, the person I love most is just crushing me, as opposed to, man, men's ego gets checked. I'm going to come down, give him what he needs. Boom. Then he becomes the champion. So you
But I'm
doing
trying,
that is phenomenal.
and while I'm also trying to help him build that wolf, right? So it's a
Yes,
delicate.
that's right.
I'm also the guy that goes, hey, in about 4 years, the world sees you like me. Like, you're going to be a man. I can't soften these blows anymore. I got to push you. But I also know there's a limit to what I can push somebody, right? I got to know the limit, because if not, then I lose him, and he's going to have the weak wolf win, because he doesn't have the guy who's the strong wolf. But
That's right.
you're right. It's tough, man. Yeah, but
It's
I have
hard.
to feed both oftentimes.
Yeah.
I'm the
Final
same with
question.
my son. Oh yeah, go for it, Sean.
Anthony, what does level up and live mean to you?
Level up and live. Well, at the end of the day, for me, it's always like I look at the world we live in. I'm big in the dark work we talk to. It's about optimizing your identity for peak performance. It's how to perform at your peak. You know, it's in moments that are necessary. It's like sometimes you just need 20 minutes of greatness, right? But I think that those are the things that allow you to live a life, not just to be alive, but to actually live a life. And the life you live is going to be one that should be enjoyable to you. Maybe you want to live on a farm and just walk dogs all day. That's cool, right? But you have to do something to level your life up to have that kind of freedom. So if you want to live your life in your manner, you have to find out how to level up in all aspects, because then you have the power to choose. Without that, the choice is whatever builds today. When you've built up to a certain level, like I'm in control, I can do what I want, and now I can finally live.
Pure gold.
Pure gold, man. I love
How
that.
can our listeners and audience support you, man?
Man, you can just go to Anthony Trucks on Instagram or Dark Work on Instagram. And if you want to find out the work we do, go to darkwork.com. We're just about ready to have the whole site and everything launched to the world. But if you go there and you don't see it all big, put your name and email in. When we go live, you'll see a cool, we'll call it introduction to our brand when it comes time.
Awesome. When it launches, Anthony, we'll put it on all our socials too, just that we can reiterate the episode. We'll launch it next Tuesday, but we'll also, whenever, if it's a month from now, if you let us know, we'll blast it out there so people can go find it too.
I appreciate that.
Awesome. Man, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. Level up and live, Anthony. You're a phenomenal guy. Thank you.
Level up and
Welcome,
live.
fellas.
Thank you for tuning in to another powerful episode of the Level Up and Live podcast with Anthony Trucks. His story is a testament to the incredible possibilities within all of us. If this podcast is making a positive impact on your life, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend. And remember to subscribe for more thought-provoking conversations and share your feedback, because that's what keeps our passion burning bright. Together, let's make it happen. Until next time, keep leveling up and living your best life.